I was bleeding on a marble floor, clutching a 3-year-old boy to my chest while men in masks tried to rip him away from me. 24 hours earlier, I was nobody, just a broke waitress trying to survive. But in this moment, I was the only thing standing between this child and the people who wanted to destroy his father. How did I get here? How did a simple act of kindness turn into the most dangerous and most beautiful decision of my life? Stay with me, because this story will break your heart and put it back together again. And I promise you, by the end, you'll understand why some love is worth fighting for, even when it costs you everything. This is my story, the story of how one crying child changed 3 lives forever. Welcome to Voice of Granny. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. Have you ever had a moment where your life split into before and after? Where one decision changed absolutely everything? Let me tell you about the night that happened to me. My name is Sophie Carter, and 3 years ago, I was nobody special. Just another tired face in Los Angeles, working myself to the bone, trying to survive. I was 25 years old, but I felt like I'd lived 100 years. Every morning, I'd wake up at 5 to work the breakfast shift at a small cafe in downtown LA. Then I'd rush home, shower in 5 minutes, and put on my uniform for my evening job at Billionaire, the most expensive French restaurant in Beverly Hills. The uniform never looked quite right on me. No matter how many times I washed it, there were always stains I couldn't get out. I'd stand in front of the mirror, pulling my brown hair back so tight it made my head ache, and I'd see the exhaustion carved into my face. The dark circles under my blue eyes. The way my cheekbones stuck out because I was too tired to eat properly. I was drowning, and nobody even noticed. That particular evening started like any other. The restaurant was packed with the usual crowd: movie producers, tech moguls, people wearing watches that cost more than I'd make in 5 years. I moved between tables with a smile I didn't feel, my feet screaming in pain, serving people who barely looked at me. Then, at 9:30, the entire restaurant went silent. I looked up from pouring water, and my breath caught in my throat. 6 men in dark suits walked in first, their eyes scanning the room like they were searching for threats. And then he entered. I'd never seen someone command a room just by walking into it. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair perfectly styled and a jawline that looked like it had been carved from stone. His navy suit probably cost more than my rent for a year. But it was his eyes that made my heart skip. Deep brown, almost black, beautiful and intense and somehow broken. A little boy clung to his neck, tiny face buried in the man's shoulder. "Oh God," I heard Pierre, our head server, whisper beside me. "That's Dominic Ashford." I didn't recognize the name, but I understood fear. Every server in the restaurant had pressed themselves against the walls. Even our owner had come out of the kitchen, wringing his hands nervously. "Who is he?" I whispered back. Pierre looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Just stay away from that table, Sophie. Don't approach. Don't even look at him. Understand?" But I was already watching the child. The boy couldn't have been more than 3 years old, dressed in tiny dress pants and a button-down shirt. As his father tried to set him down in the corner booth, the child's whimpers turned into heartbreaking screams. "Noah, please." The man's voice was deep, commanding, but I could hear the desperation underneath. "Daddy needs you to be brave." The boy's cries only got louder, more desperate. It was the kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep inside, from a place of real pain. And my heart just broke. I watched this powerful man try everything. He offered food, promised ice cream, pulled out a toy from his pocket. Nothing worked. The child screamed like his whole world was ending, and maybe it was. The other diners started whispering, some asking for their checks early. I watched Dominic Ashford hold his son close, whispering words I couldn't hear. And this man who everyone feared looked like he was falling apart. My feet started moving before my brain could catch up. "Sophie, stop!" Pierre hissed at me. I didn't stop. I couldn't. The bodyguards moved fast, blocking my path. One put his hand on my shoulder. Not rough, but firm. "Miss, step back." "I just want to help," I said quietly, my eyes still on the crying child. Then Dominic Ashford's voice cut through all the noise. "Let her through." The bodyguards stepped aside like the Red Sea parting. I walked toward the table slowly, my heart pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. Up close, Dominic Ashford was even more overwhelming. The sharp angles of his face, the expensive cologne, the raw power that seemed to radiate from him like heat. But I focused on the child. "Hi there," I said softly, crouching down to eye level with the boy. "My name is Sophie." The crying stuttered. Noah peeked at me from his father's shoulder, his little face red and wet with tears. That's a lot of big feelings for such a little person, I continued gently. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. Please, Dominic said, and the desperation in his voice cracked something open in my chest. He's been like this for weeks. Nothing helps. The doctors say he's grieving, that he needs time, but I don't know how to help him. Our eyes met and I saw it. The matching grief he was barely holding together. His mother? I asked quietly. Dominic's nod was almost invisible. Understanding flooded through me. The expensive suit couldn't hide the exhaustion, the helplessness of a man who could control everything except his son's pain. Noah, I said softly, did you know that when my little brother was sad, we used to count stars together? The crying had reduced to hiccups. Noah was watching me now, curious despite the tears. Your daddy looks really strong. I bet he could hold you up high enough to touch the ceiling. Would you like that? Something shifted in that moment. Something that would change all our lives forever. Noah's small hand unclenched from his father's shirt. Just a little, but enough. Sophie, Dominic breathed, and his voice was rough with something that sounded like wonder. I smiled at Noah. But first, you have to take a deep breath with me. Can you do that? Breathe in. I demonstrated, and Noah copied me. And out. The child's breathing steadied. The crying stopped. The entire restaurant seemed to exhale with relief. There we go, I whispered. You're so brave. The words slipped out before I could stop them. He just needs a mother. My eyes widened as I realized what I'd said. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. You're right. Dominic's voice was barely above a whisper. He was staring at me like I'd just performed a miracle. He does. Then something incredible happened. Noah reached for me. His little arms extended toward me, and my breath caught in my throat. Please, Dominic said. That single word from a man who clearly never begged for anything. Just for a moment. I held out my arms, and Noah practically jumped into them. His small body was warm against my chest. He wrapped his arms around my neck and let out this shuddering sigh, like he'd been holding his breath for months. My eyes burned with unexpected tears. I rubbed small circles on his back, swaying gently like my mother used to do for me. It's okay, sweet boy. It's okay. When I looked up, Dominic was watching us with an expression I couldn't name. Something between hunger and hope, something that made my skin flush and my heart race. What's your full name? He asked. Sophie Carter. Sophie Carter, he repeated slowly, like he was memorizing it. How did you do that? I just understood what he needed. And what does he need? I met his intense gaze. To know someone sees his pain. That it's okay not to be okay. Something shifted in Dominic's expression. A crack in the armor. I need you, he said simply. My pulse jumped. What? To help with Noah. Name your price. I'm not for sale, Mr. Ashford. His lips twitched slightly. Everyone has a price, Sophie Carter. I already have 2 jobs. I'll pay you more than both combined. Triple it. He leaned forward and I could smell his cologne, expensive, intoxicating. You have a gift with him. I've watched 17 nannies fail in the past 2 months. You calmed him in 60 seconds. I'm not a nanny. I'm a waitress. You're whatever you need to be to survive, he said, and the accuracy of that statement stole my breath. I understand that. So understand this, my son needs you. And I protect what he needs. It should have sounded like a threat. Instead, it sounded like a promise. Noah had fallen asleep against my shoulder, his breathing soft and even. I looked down at him and felt something click into place in my chest. I'll think about it, I whispered. Dominic pulled a card from his jacket. Heavy black cardstock with silver lettering. Just a phone number, nothing else. You have until tomorrow morning, he said. Our fingers brushed as I took the card, and electricity shot up my arm. Don't make me wait too long, Sophie. The way he said my name made it sound like something precious. I'm not a patient man. He stood, gently taking his sleeping son from my arms. For a moment, we formed this strange picture. The billionaire, the waitress, and the sleeping child between us. Then Dominic Ashford walked out of the restaurant, his security team falling into formation around him, and I stood there frozen with that black card burning in my pocket. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my tiny studio apartment, 4th floor, no elevator, leaky ceiling, staring at that card on my coffee table like it might explode. My roommate, Jenna, had Googled Dominic Ashford and spent an hour showing me everything she found. Tech billionaire. Founded a software company at 23 that revolutionized data security. Now owned half of Silicon Valley and had investments in everything from real estate to aerospace. His wife had died in a car accident 18 months ago. They'd been childhood sweethearts. The articles said he'd become ruthless after her death, that he'd destroyed competing companies without mercy, that he was brilliant and cold and dangerous in the business world. "You're insane if you call him," Jenna said. "He's a billionaire, Sophie. They don't live in the same world as us. He's a father who needs help. He probably eats people like you for breakfast." I thought about the exhaustion in Dominic's eyes, the desperate love in how he held his son. Maybe he's both. At 5 in the morning, I called the number. He answered on the first ring. "I knew you would call. Can't sleep either?" I asked. "Not since she died," he admitted, and the honesty in his voice surprised me. "I have conditions," I said. "I'm listening. I'll help with Noah 3 days a week. I keep my restaurant job the other days. And if at any point I think this isn't working, I walk away. No questions, no consequences." Silence stretched between us. When he spoke again, his voice had changed, become harder. "You think I'd hurt you for leaving? I don't know what you'd do. That's the problem." Another pause. Then, surprisingly, "Fair enough. I agree to your terms, with one addition." "What?" "You don't walk away without giving me a reason. If something's wrong, you tell me. I can't fix what I don't understand." The vulnerability in that statement caught me off guard. "Okay, my driver will pick you up at 9. Wear comfortable clothes. Noah likes to play outside. Wait today. You had all night to prepare, Sophie. And I told you, I'm not a patient man." The call ended, and I sat there in the early morning light, wondering what I'd just agreed to. At exactly 9 o'clock, a black car pulled up outside my building. The driver opened the door without a word, and I climbed in, my heart racing. The Ashford estate sat in the hills above Los Angeles, hidden behind high walls and iron gates. As we drove through, my jaw dropped. The mansion sprawled across what must have been acres of perfectly manicured lawns. Modern architecture, all glass and clean lines, with a view that stretched all the way to the ocean. An older woman with kind eyes was waiting at the front door. "Miss Carter, I'm Diana, the house manager. Mr. Ashford is expecting you." The inside was breathtaking. Marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, artwork that probably belonged in museums. Diana led me through rooms that could swallow my entire apartment, and I felt so out of place I wanted to disappear. We found Dominic in a massive living room, sitting on the floor in his suit pants and a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Noah was having a complete meltdown, throwing toys across the room while screaming at the top of his lungs. Dominic looked up as I entered, and the relief that crossed his face was almost painful to see. "Thank God," he breathed. "He's been like this since he woke up." I set down my bag and walked calmly into the chaos. I sat on the floor a few feet from Noah, not approaching, just being present. "That looks like a lot of anger," I said conversationally. "Big, huge, enormous anger." Noah threw another toy. "I get angry too sometimes," I continued. "Yesterday, I was so angry at my broken refrigerator that I wanted to throw it out the window. But it was too heavy, so I ate ice cream for dinner instead." Noah's screaming softened to angry huffs. He was listening. "Your daddy looks pretty worried. See his face? That's his worried face." I glanced at Dominic, who was watching us intently. "I bet if you used words instead of throwing, he'd understand better. Want to try?" Noah's little face scrunched up. "Mama," he whispered, and my heart shattered. "Want mama?" I looked at Dominic, who had gone completely still, his face pale. "I know, sweetheart," I said softly. "I bet you miss her so much it hurts everywhere." Noah nodded, tears streaming down his cheeks again. "It's okay to miss her. It's okay to be sad and angry. Your mama loved you so much, didn't she?" Another nod. "She'd want you to be happy again someday. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But someday. Until then, your daddy is here. He's pretty big and strong. Think he could give good hugs." Noah looked at his father, uncertain. Dominic's voice cracked. "The best hugs, buddy. I promise." The boy launched himself at his father, and Dominic caught him, holding tight, his eyes squeezed shut as Noah sobbed against his chest. I started to stand to give them privacy, but Dominic's hand shot out and caught my wrist. "Stay," he said hoarsely. "Please." So I stayed, watching a billionaire cry silent tears into his son's hair, and I understood that money couldn't fix everything. That grief was the same whether you lived in a mansion or a studio apartment. The weeks that followed were like living in a dream. I fell into a rhythm with Noah. We had breakfast together every morning I was there, played in the massive garden, read stories before nap time. He started calling me Sophie in his sweet little voice, then Soph. And eventually my heart nearly exploded when he called me Mama Sophie. And Dominic. Dominic was complicated. He came home earlier now, joined us for dinner, sat with us during bedtime stories, his tall frame folded into a child-sized chair. I caught him watching me constantly, when I danced with Noah to silly songs, when I wiped juice off his chin, when I simply existed in his space. The attraction between us grew from a spark to a wildfire, and we both knew it. "You're staring again," I said one evening after Noah had gone to sleep. We were on the terrace, the city lights glittering below us like fallen stars. "Can't help it." Dominic's voice was rough. He'd had several drinks, and his usual control was slipping. "Do you know how long it's been since I felt anything besides emptiness?" "How long?" I asked softly. 18 months. He moved closer. "Then you walked into that restaurant and looked at me like I was human, like I was worth something more than my bank account." "You are human, Dominic." "I've done terrible things, Sophie. In business, I've destroyed people's lives. I've been ruthless and cold, and you cut Noah's sandwiches into dinosaur shapes," I interrupted. "I've watched you panic over a scraped knee. I've heard you sing lullabies off-key. That's who you are too." His hand came up, finally making contact after weeks of careful distance. His fingers traced my cheekbone and I shivered. "You make me want to be better. You already are better. You're trying. That's what matters." "Sophie," he warned, his voice dropping lower. "If you don't walk away right now, I'm not walking anywhere." He kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was months of loneliness and grief and desperate need poured into the touch of lips and breath and hands. I melted into him, my fingers tangling in his hair as he pulled me closer, like he was afraid I might disappear. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dominic pressed his forehead to mine. "This is dangerous," he whispered. "I know. You deserve better than me. I'll decide what I deserve." He pulled back to look at me, his dark eyes intense. "You're under my protection now. Do you understand what that means? That you'll keep me safe? That I'll move heaven and earth to keep you safe? That nothing and no one will ever hurt you while I'm alive?" It should have scared me. Instead, warmth bloomed in my chest. Then we heard the sound of breaking glass. The sound of shattering glass came from inside the house, followed by shouts and Diana's scream piercing the night air. Dominic's entire body went rigid. He pushed me behind him, and suddenly there was a phone in his hand, his fingers moving rapidly. "Stay behind me," he commanded, and this was a different man, cold, calculating, protective. We moved through the house quickly. More shouting. Diana crying. We burst into the foyer to find 4 men in black masks. One held Diana with his arm around her throat. Another had Noah, and my blood turned to ice. The little boy was screaming, reaching for his father, his face red and terrified. "Ashford," one of the masked men said. His voice was rough, angry. "We've been waiting for you. Let them go." Dominic's voice was arctic, deadly calm. "This is between us and Meridian Corporation. They have nothing to do with this. No, this is about making you understand that you can't refuse our deal." The man holding Noah moved toward the door. "You're going to sign over those patents, or you'll never see your son again. We'll make the call, you'll transfer everything, and then maybe, we'll tell you where to find him." Everything happened so fast it felt like slow motion. The men started moving toward the door with Noah. Dominic lunged forward, but 2 of the masked men blocked him. Diana sobbed. Noah screamed for his daddy, his little arms reaching. And I didn't think. I just moved. I ran toward Noah as fast as I could. "No!" Dominic roared behind me, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. I reached the man holding Noah and did the only thing I could think of. I grabbed Noah with both arms and yanked him away, throwing myself backward. The man stumbled, surprised. Noah came free, and I fell to the marble floor, curling my entire body around the little boy to protect him. I heard shouting, felt the thunder of footsteps as Dominic's security team flooded the house from wherever they'd been. Men yelling, furniture crashing. Then I felt it, a sharp, burning pain across my side as one of the men tried to grab Noah back. Something metal, maybe a knife, I wasn't sure. The pain was white-hot, stealing my breath. But I held on to Noah. I held on with everything I had. "Sophie," Dominic's voice raw with terror. Strong hands pulled me up carefully. I was still clutching Noah tightly, feeling his little heart hammering against mine. He was crying, but he was safe. That was all that mattered. You're okay, baby. You're okay. I've got you, I whispered, even though my side was on fire and I could feel something warm and wet spreading across my shirt. Sophie, you're bleeding. Dominic was in front of me, his face white, his hands shaking as they reached for us both. Oh God, you're bleeding. I looked down. My shirt was dark with blood, and the room suddenly felt very far away. I'm okay, I heard myself say. He's fine. Noah's fine. You're not fine. Dominic's voice cracked as he pulled both of us against his chest. His hands were trembling as they touched my face, my hair, checking me over. You beautiful, stupid, brave woman. You could have been killed. So could he, I whispered, and the room was spinning now. But you, he couldn't finish. His arms tightened around us carefully, mindful of my injury. You threw yourself between him and danger without even thinking. Paramedics arrived within minutes. Police came too, but they seemed to defer to Dominic, asking their questions quietly and leaving quickly. I noticed that, even through the haze of pain, a paramedic carefully took Noah from my arms so they could examine me. The cut was deep but not life-threatening, they said. I'd need stitches. Lots of stitches. But I'd be okay. I watched Dominic hold Noah, whispering to him in that gentle voice, his hands checking every inch of his son to make sure he was truly unharmed. The love in his face, the fierce protectiveness, the barely controlled terror that he'd almost lost his child. It was everything. When he finally set Noah down with Diana, who was shaken but unhurt, he turned to me with an expression that stole whatever breath I had left. You saved my son, he said, his voice breaking. Anyone would have. No. He crossed to me in 3 strides, careful not to jar my injury. No one else would have. You put yourself between him and people who wanted to hurt him. You didn't hesitate. You didn't think about yourself. His hands cupped my face so gently, like I was made of glass. I love you, he whispered, and my heart stopped. I know it's crazy. I know it's too soon. But watching you almost die made me realize that I love you, Sophie. I'm terrified of it. I don't know how to do this. But I love you. Tears spilled down my cheeks. That's terrifying, I whispered back. I know. And crazy. I know. And I love you too. His smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. That's even more terrifying. I know. We laughed, and it felt like release, like joy, like coming home after a long journey. Noah toddled over, pushing between us, grabbing both our hands with his little fingers. Soft stay, he said firmly, his face serious. Soft stay always. I looked at Dominic through my tears. He looked at me, his eyes full of everything we hadn't said yet, everything we would say. Always, we said together. The paramedics took me to the hospital. Dominic rode with me, holding my hand the entire way, Noah asleep in his other arm. And even though my side hurt and I'd need surgery and recovery time, I'd never felt more whole in my entire life. Sometimes love asks you to be brave. And sometimes being brave gives you everything you never knew you needed. The next morning, I woke up in a private hospital room surrounded by flowers. Dominic was asleep in the chair beside my bed, still in his blood-stained shirt from the night before, Noah curled up in his lap. When I stirred, Dominic's eyes opened immediately. Hey, he said softly. How do you feel? Like I got stabbed. I tried to joke, but my voice came out rough. That's because you did. His jaw tightened. 14 stitches, Sophie. You could have been killed. But I wasn't. And Noah's safe. That's what matters. He stood carefully, settling Noah in the chair, and came to my bedside. He took my hand in both of his, and I saw that they were trembling. We need to talk about last night, he said quietly. Those men, they were from Meridian Corporation. I refused to sell them certain patents, technology that could be weaponized. They've been pressuring me for months, making threats. I had security, but I never thought they'd. His voice broke. I never thought they'd come to my home. That they'd threaten Noah. That they'd hurt you. Dominic. No, let me finish. He squeezed my hand gently. You need to understand what being with me means. I'm not just wealthy, Sophie. I have enemies, business rivals who see everything as leverage. People who would use you, use Noah, to get what they want. Last night proved that. So what are you saying? My heart was starting to sink. He looked at me, and his eyes were full of pain. I'm saying that I love you. God, I love you so much it terrifies me. But I'm also saying that loving me comes with danger. With security details and threats and nights like last night. I can't promise you a normal life. I can't even promise you safety, no matter how hard I try. I was quiet for a moment, processing. Then I said, are you trying to push me away? I'm trying to be honest with you. To give you a choice. I already made my choice, I said firmly. I made it when I ran toward Noah last night, not away from him. I made it when I fell in love with both of you. Don't I get to decide if I'm strong enough for this? Sophie, I jumped in front of danger for your son, Dominic. Do you think I did that on impulse? I did it because I love him. I love you. And I'm not going to let fear make my decisions for me. Something in his face cracked open. You're the bravest person I've ever met. Or the craziest. That too. He smiled, but it faded quickly. If you stay, there are conditions. You don't go anywhere without security. You learn self-defense. You tell me everything, any threats, anything unusual, anything that feels wrong. Okay, I'm serious, Sophie. In my world, information keeps you alive. I understand. He hesitated, then said quietly, the police arrested those men last night. They're connected to Meridian's CEO. But there might be others. Competitors will see you as my weakness now. What you did, protecting Noah, will be all over the news. You're Sophie Carter, the waitress who saved Dominic Ashford's son. You're famous now. And that makes you a target. The weight of that settled over me, but I didn't waver. I'm still not leaving. Stubborn woman. You love it. I do. He leaned down carefully, mindful of my injury, and kissed me softly. God help me, I do. Over the next few weeks, my life transformed completely. I moved into the mansion. You're safer here, Dominic insisted. I quit both my jobs. You don't need them anymore, and I need you here. I started training with his security team in self-defense. I also learned about Dominic's world. The patents he'd refused to sell could have been turned into surveillance technology that violated privacy on a massive scale. He'd said no, despite the billions they'd offered, because some things weren't for sale. You're a good man. I told him one evening as we watched Noah play in the garden. I'm a businessman who made a business decision. You gave up billions to protect people's privacy. That's not just business. He pulled me closer, careful of my healing side. You make me want to be the man you see when you look at me. You already are. 2 months after the attack, Dominic took me back to that terrace where we'd first kissed. The sun was setting over Los Angeles, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Sophie, he said, and his voice was nervous. Dominic Ashford, nervous. I know this is fast. I know my world is dangerous and complicated and nothing like what you deserved. But, he pulled out a small box and my breath caught. I don't want to waste another second of life, he continued. These past months with you have taught me that time is precious. That love is precious. And I love you. I love how you love my son. I love your bravery and your stubbornness and the way you see the best in everyone. He opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring surrounded by sapphires. Marry me, Sophie. Be Noah's mother officially. Be my wife. Let me spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you. Tears streamed down my face. Yes, I whispered. Yes to all of it. His hands shook as he slid the ring onto my finger, then pulled me into a kiss that tasted like promise and forever. I'll keep you safe, he whispered against my lips. I swear it. I know, but I'll also keep you safe. That's what partners do. Partners, he repeated, like the word was new and wonderful. I like that. 3 years later, I stand in our garden watching Noah, now 6 years old, play with his little sister Lily. She toddles after her brother, giggling as he makes silly faces at her. Mama, watch this. Noah calls, doing a cartwheel. Beautiful baby. I laugh. Mama. I'm Mama now. Have been since our wedding 2 years ago, in a simple ceremony with just family and close friends. The best day of my life. Strong arms wrap around my waist from behind. Dominic's chin rests on my shoulder, his hands settling protectively over my stomach where our third child grows. Happy, he murmurs. Impossibly so. We've built a life together, complicated and sometimes scary, yes, but undeniably ours. Dominic has been careful, strategic, surrounding us with security but also with love. The patents he refused to sell? He eventually released them as open-source technology, free for ethical use, making sure they'd never be weaponized. Some called it a billion-dollar gesture of principle. I called it proof of who he really was. I love you, I say, turning in his arms. I love you more, he replies, kissing me softly. My brave, stubborn, perfect wife. Noah runs over and crashes into our legs. Lily follows, and Dominic scoops them both up, making them squeal with laughter. I watch my family, my impossible, perfect family, and I think about that night in the restaurant when a little boy wouldn't stop crying. when I walked towards something unknown without thinking, when I said yes to love without hesitation. I think about the night I threw myself in front of danger to protect that little boy. How it hurt, how I was scared, but how I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because sometimes the best stories begin with the bravest choice. Sometimes you have to step into the unknown to find your home. And sometimes a crying child leads you to exactly where you're meant to be. Life isn't perfect. We still have security. We're still careful. But we have each other. We have love. We have a family built on the foundation of one brave moment when I chose to see someone's pain and step forward instead of away. And that, my friends, has made all the difference. If this story touched your heart, if you've ever been brave enough to choose love even when it was scary, leave a comment below. Share this with someone who needs to hear that taking a chance on love is always worth it. Because it is. It always is. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is also the most beautiful. Sometimes love asks you to be brave. And sometimes when you're brave enough to answer, it gives you everything you never knew you needed. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here.